Morning, folks. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. What I want to do today is introduce you to what I call the Woodsman's Wedgie. And just a little bit of a catchy name for a tool that I've designed to be used by woodsmen. And it's a great tool for different concepts. And I really kind of wanted to walk you through the design concept and the design intent for this tool before I give you some demonstration of how it works and we talk a little bit more about how much it weighs, what it's made out of, what it costs, all those types of things. So stay with me, guys. Okay, this tool is called the Woodsman's Wedgie. And about a year ago, I purchased this tool, which is an emergency entry tool used by firefighters to open doors for entry purposes. And it's made out of aluminum, and it is angled on one side, flat on the other. Got a bevel here, and it's made for putting in the crease of the door, pounding in to separate the door jamb basically from the door to open the bolt, the lock bolt, or the sliding bolt on your lock set. And I looked at this thing and I thought, you know, that'd be a pretty cool, handy tool to have in the woods to split wood. And it might be light enough that I could use it to split wood and not necessarily have to carry an axe all the time. Well, I bought the tool, I used the tool. You can see it's pretty scratched up, scuffed up. And I liked it, but there were some things about the design I didn't like and some things I wanted to improve in the design to make it more conducive for a good woodsman's tool. And that is how we developed the Woodsman's Wedgie. So let's talk about this tool for a minute. First of all, it's made out of a 6000 series aluminum. It weighs right at 8 ounces, so 1/2 pound. It has about a 30-degree angle on both sides, and it has checkering on it to help it grip the wood as it goes in, but it's a very aggressive splitting type wedge. It has a hole bored through the center here, number one, to reduce weight, but also coarse threaded so that you can take a stick off the ground and carve that stick down to about the right size, and it will actually thread onto this tool so that you have a handle for this wedge, so you're not having to hold it when you're smacking on it. So that was another improvement to the design. Now it does have a bow drill divot cut into it on both sides here and here. Really, that's just a bonus. It wasn't really part of the design intent, other than we thought it might be cool to do that because you are carrying this block of aluminum, which is a great heat sink. So it's gonna be a good handhold device for that if you need it. Now, let's talk about the Woodsman's Wedge and why you would want something like this in the first place. Okay, one of the things that has long been an argument across the bushcraft and survival community is to baton your knife or not baton your knife. Right tool for the right job, and so on and so on and so on. One of the things that I teach at the most basic level here at the Pathfinder School is that at least 3 seasons of the year here in Ohio, you really don't need an axe to spend a night or two in the woods. You can get most things done with a saw and a knife. What that does do is it forces you at times to have to baton that knife or to make wooden wedges to assist that knife in splitting wood if you're going to split firewood. And you don't always have to split wood. You can always find wood on the ground to burn and burn larger logs, but there are times you need to get into the center of wood, or you want to split larger logs down for smaller materials to get fire started. And if you're not going to baton your knife, then you're relegated to carrying an axe. And even a smallest hatchet weighs probably 1.5 pounds at the minimum. This tool only weighs 1/2 pound. Now, if you take this tool, which weighs, again, about 8 ounces, and you combine this with a good saw and a decent belt knife, then you definitely don't need an axe at least 3 seasons of the year here in Ohio. This tool was designed to split the type of wood you would use in a camp environment short term. Stuff that's 4 to 5 to 6 inches top end. However, I've split stuff 8 to 10 inches with this that's been cut down and drying in a wood pile, and I've chopped and split everything from cherry to oak to maple with this thing. It's, again, there's always a guy out there who's gonna say, well, try that on dry elm. We're not talking about dry elm. We're talking about what we find out here in the woods. And I doubt you're going to find much elm because of Dutch elm disease. So what we're talking about is common woods and eastern woodlands, splitting 4 to 5 inch pieces down for firewood. And this tool Does a very, very good job of that. The other advantage to this over something like an axe, in my mind, is that it's not real sharp. So you're not swinging a sharp implement. You're actually putting this on a handle and you're swinging down on it with the same baton that you would probably use on your knife, or something larger if you want more weight forward inertia. But the wedge is standing still. You're not swinging the wedge. You're holding it in place with a handle that you fashion for it. And it's very controllable that way. It's also not dangerous almost at all for that part. So I can split wood very, very quickly with this without having to try to reset for another axe chop or something like that. Very, very quick at making firewood. I'm going to demonstrate some of that for you today. So those are the things and the reasons I designed this wedge. It wasn't a replacement for an axe necessarily year round, but it can replace a small hatchet or an axe easy enough if you're trying to lighten your load or if you're not as experienced with an axe. And it can also be used in conjunction with your axe as a secondary wedge or maul. Again, you're only going to hit this with wooden tools. It is aluminum, but it is 6000 series aluminum, so it's plenty tough. We've beat the crap out of this one, and we haven't heard it yet. So I would say that this tool goes both directions. You could use it with an axe. You could use it without an axe. If you're trying to lighten your load, put it in with your saw and your knife. If you want something to assist you in splitting wood with your axe, maybe you're carrying a smaller hatchet, like some type of a belt hatchet or some type of a Grantsford Brooks small forest axe. And you might want to split some bigger pieces of wood. This will assist you in doing that without having to make wooden wedges, and you're only sacrificing, again, 8 ounces of weight to get there. Okay, so I've got a piece of white oak right here off the firewood pile. It's about 15 inches long, and it's probably about 5.5, 6 inches in diameter. It's been sitting on the wood pile, but again, this is the stuff you're going to be looking for firewood in the woods. Something that's laying on the ground already that I can buck off with my saw into manageable pieces, bring it back to camp. I may not want to burn this giant log. I may want to split this thing down so that I can start my fire easier and get a hotter burning fire to add logs this size in the end. So now, this is where the wedge comes in place. So I'm just going to put that dude in the middle. Run it down. Look at the grain in this piece of wood. And the wedge is still splitting it out and getting it done. Now, am I afraid to swing this if I need to? Not at all. All right, guys, so we busted up some pretty gnarly pieces of white oak with that. Good 6-inch log, busted that thing down into manageable firewood pieces, no problem. So what's the price of this bad boy? $39.95. Made in the USA, $39.95. Lots of guys ask me about products made in the USA. Try to make more products in the USA. And I told you, I try every opportunity I get. So I took this prototype design. It was made for me by one of my buddies, Matthew Tom, down in Tennessee. We took it to a machine shop in Indianapolis, Indiana, or I think it's north of Indianapolis, actually, that does some work for us already, and we asked them to quote it. They came in with a price that we could live with. So the MSRP on this is $39.95. Made in the USA, 6000 series aluminum, the Woodsman's Wedgie. Thanks, guys.
You can smell it from here.
Yeah.